Addiction is not just about a physical dependency on a substance or behavior. According to Carl Jung, addiction is a deeper psychological issue, a symptom of the larger human condition, reflecting inner turmoil, unresolved conflicts, and a profound disconnection from one's true self. Jung believed that addiction is an attempt to fill a void, an escape from the existential questions that often plague us. Jung viewed addiction as a form of self-destructive behavior that arises when a person feels disconnected from their inner world. When life's meaning becomes elusive or overwhelming, people often turn to substances or patterns that offer temporary relief, even if they come at a significant cost. This pursuit of relief may stem from a lack of integration between the conscious and unconscious mind, which Jung termed as a failure to individuate. At its core, addiction is an attempt to cope with the chaos within. It's a way of finding comfort in a world that feels increasingly disconnected or alienating. Jung argued that without addressing the deeper psychological roots of addiction, merely focusing on the substance or behavior is ineffective. Real healing happens when an individual confronts their inner struggles, re-establishes connection with their true self, and works towards a sense of wholeness. In this series, we'll explore the psychology of addiction through Carl Jung's lens. We'll delve into the inner conflicts that give rise to addictive behavior and discover how Jung's ideas of individuation, the shadow, and the unconscious offer profound insights into the nature of addiction and recovery. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow plays a crucial role in understanding addiction. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we reject, deny, or repress, traits and emotions we deem unacceptable or uncomfortable. According to Jung, the more we suppress these aspects of ourselves, the more they exert unconscious control over our behavior. This unconscious conflict often manifests as addictive behavior. Addicts frequently use substances or behaviors to numb, distract, or escape from the pain caused by their shadow. Whether it's feelings of inadequacy, shame, guilt, or anger, these emotions often remain hidden in the unconscious. Rather than addressing these feelings directly, the addict attempts to suppress or avoid them, often turning to an addiction as a form of self-medication. For example, someone who feels inadequate might turn to alcohol or drugs to temporarily feel confident or numb the emotional discomfort. The addiction, then, is not just about the substance, it's about avoiding the confrontation with the shadow self. Jung argued that these addictive behaviors are driven by the unconscious mind's attempt to protect the individual from the pain of confronting repressed emotions. The first step in breaking free from addiction, Jung believed, is to confront the shadow. This means facing those repressed emotions and integrating them into consciousness. By acknowledging and accepting these hidden parts of ourselves, we begin the process of individuation, becoming more whole and authentic. Addiction, in this sense, is a misguided attempt to find wholeness. The true path to recovery involves self-awareness, emotional integration, and healing anti-aid. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind holds a vast amount of emotional and psychological energy, and when we neglect it, it can exert significant control over our actions. For Jung, the unconscious isn't just a passive repository of repressed thoughts and feelings. It's a dynamic, living force that communicates through dreams, symbols, and often behavior that seems irrational or out of control. This is where addiction often finds its roots. Addiction is a form of communication from the unconscious. It acts as a mechanism to deal with the unresolved conflicts or unmet needs that lie beneath the surface of consciousness. When a person is not in touch with their unconscious desires, fears, or traumas, those aspects of the psyche can manifest in compulsive behaviors, such as addiction. In other words, the addiction is the unconscious mind's way of seeking resolution, or attempting to fulfill a need that's not being met consciously. Jung viewed the unconscious as a bridge to the deeper parts of the psyche, and if ignored, it can begin to sabotage conscious life. The craving for a substance or the compulsion to engage in addictive behaviors often signals that there's something more significant happening beneath the surface, something that hasn't been addressed or integrated. The process of individuation, Jung's term for the journey towards psychological wholeness, involves embracing the unconscious and bringing its contents into consciousness. This is where healing from addiction begins. The more a person becomes aware of their unconscious drives and desires, the less they are controlled by them. Instead of being guided by compulsions, they learn to make choices that are aligned with their authentic self. For Carl Jung, unresolved trauma plays a critical role in the development of addiction. Trauma, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological, leaves deep imprints on the unconscious mind. When trauma is not properly processed, it festers in the shadows, driving us to seek relief or escape through addictive behaviors. Addiction, in this light, becomes a way to cope with the pain and distress caused by past trauma. Jung often spoke of how the psyche seeks balance, and when there is trauma, the mind tries to compensate for it by creating protective mechanisms. Addiction can be seen as one of these mechanisms, an unconscious attempt to numb or avoid the overwhelming feelings and memories tied to traumatic experiences. Whether the trauma stems from childhood neglect, emotional abuse, abandonment, or the loss of a loved one, it creates an inner wound. This wound, if left unhealed, can lead to the formation of unhealthy coping strategies, like addiction. The addict, in essence, is trying to soothe a deep emotional pain that has not been fully acknowledged or integrated. The recovery process involves addressing and confronting the trauma head-on. Jung believed that in order to heal, the individual must confront their past and allow themselves to feel and process the emotions that have been repressed. Only through this confrontation with the unconscious wounds can true healing and recovery occur. The healing journey, according to Jung, is not about avoiding pain, but embracing it as part of the process of individuation. Addiction, therefore, is not simply a behavioral issue. It is a signal that trauma has not been properly processed. Recovery is about facing the trauma, understanding its impact, and reintegrating the lost parts of the self that trauma has fractured. Jung's concept of individuation is central to understanding how addiction can be overcome. Individuation is the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche, leading to psychological wholeness. For those struggling with addiction, this process is transformative because it allows them to confront the unconscious forces driving their compulsions and integrate them into a more balanced and conscious way of living. In the case of addiction, individuation begins when the individual becomes aware of the parts of themselves that have been repressed or denied. These may include unresolved emotions, desires, and memories that the addict has attempted to escape through substances or behaviors. By bringing these repressed parts into conscious awareness, the individual starts to understand the underlying reasons for their addictive behavior, rather than just focusing on the addiction itself. Individuation requires the courage to confront and integrate the shadow, the unconscious part of the self that holds all the aspects we reject, deny, or are ashamed of. Jung believed that without facing the shadow, we cannot become whole. For addicts, the shadow often contains unresolved trauma, negative self-beliefs, or emotional wounds that, when acknowledged, can release the grip of addiction. The process of individuation helps individuals move from the unconscious influence of addiction to conscious choice. Instead of being driven by unconscious compulsions, the individual learns to make decisions that align with their authentic self. This alignment creates inner peace and a sense of wholeness, as they no longer need to escape through addiction. The more they embrace their true self, the less power the addictive behaviors hold over them. In essence, individuation helps break the cycle of addiction by leading the individual towards self-awareness, emotional integration, and inner harmony.